Thank you so much for joining us today for our discussion of the SMB Shippers Guide with ShipStation and UPS. To start out, we have a few housekeeping items. We really welcome your questions. We want you to ask us questions, and you're going to submit questions right here through the Q&A, through the webinar application. And all of your questions, well, not all of your questions, but we will certainly be answering most of the questions that we can get to at the end of the presentation. So we really encourage you to send us your questions all throughout the presentation. At the very end, we will address your questions. So please send them on to us. We love to have your questions. Leading our webinar today is Robert Gilbreth. He's the General Manager at ShipStation. We also have Bryce Gazier. He's the Director of Marketing at UPS on the panel today. All righty, well, let's get going. We have an excellent agenda today. We're going to be covering best shipping solutions for SMBs, shipping options for your customer. Your company doesn't have to be large to save big, and how to get ship done. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it all over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thanks everyone for joining. As Cynthia said, I'm Robert Gilbreth. I'm the GM of ShipStation. And for you folks who don't know about ShipStation, we're here to help merchants unlock their full potential by building and giving them software that allows them to automate basically much of what they're doing in their back office and their fulfillment process. And we really give them back time through that. And we give them back time that they can then use to do all the other things they need to do to build their business and all those various activities. We're a longstanding trusted leader in this space. And we're very proud to be a long-time technology partner with the folks there at UPS.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bryce Gazier, Director of Marketing with UPS. I support the relationship with ShipStation and our integration and broader partnership. I'm really excited to be here today. Here at UPS, we know delivery matters. And in a world of uncertainty like we're in right now, we view our role as providing experience that delights your customers so you can meet their needs and the needs of your small business. We know one size doesn't fit all, so balancing things like convenience, speed, and reliability are key. And most importantly, the experience your customers receive in receiving your product. With our partnership with ShipStation, we've been able to ensure businesses like yours have our full arsenal of solutions. So today we'll talk through some of those solutions and provide some guidance in some areas to think about as you're making your shipping decisions. So like I said, we know one size doesn't fit all. And with that in mind, our services are designed to meet your needs, whether that's fast, faster, or fastest. And these products you see here cover the US and over 200 countries across the globe. Some shipments we know require time and day definite service. And for those things, we recommend UPS Next Day Air service with delivery as early as 8 a.m. the next day. If your shipments don't require expedited next day delivery, we've got a great portfolio of 2- and 3-day services that can help you meet marketplace requirements or get things across the country a little bit faster if you need to. And if all those things don't fit your need and you want fast, reliable service at an economical rate, UPS Ground is probably the right fit. And keep in mind with UPS Ground, you've got 90% of UPS Ground shipments are going to be delivered in 3 business days or less. So with an economical service that's reliable, you're still reaching across the country in many cases in 3 days and reaching your end merchants faster. Alongside the services you see here, we recognize that business doesn't stop on Friday. And we've got UPS weekend pickup and delivery when you need to process orders through the weekend. That helps you turn inventory faster, provides a better end customer experience, and it creates synergies in your business and fulfillment where you're not backed up over the weekend. So not only can we help you deliver through the weekend, but if you take a look at the right side, you'll see a range of international services. These services, similar to our US portfolio, are designed to meet your needs based on speed, reliability, convenience, and can help you cover the globe. And keep in mind that 95% of consumers live outside the US. So with that in mind, if you're thinking about economical service to get outside the US as a starting point, we have a ground service to Canada and Mexico. And with those 2 trading partners alone, you're reaching 30% of total US exports. So that's opening up new markets that are right in our backyard to really help expand your business. And as one customer said, we're shipping internationally through ShipStation. It makes it super easy and automated where you just click and print. So that's a little bit about the service portfolio and how we can help you reach customers in your neighborhood or across the globe.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Bryce. I'll add that the combination of all those options with UPS and using a tool like ShipStation, really, you merchants out there should think about that as how you're fulfilling the promise that you're giving to your consumers. Speaking of options, I know UPS also has access points. So, Bryce, will you share about those as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in addition to the range of products we just talked about, to get your product into your customers' hands on time, we also try to make it convenient for you to drop off and for your customers to pick up those packages wherever they are. So the UPS access point locations are local businesses that offer convenient alternative location for your customers to pick up their packages. And this is helpful if you can't be home to accept delivery, or if they're concerned about leaving a package out on the porch unattended. Especially during the holidays, I find this especially useful as a receiver of packages. It's a great alternative if you're getting high value gifts delivered during the holidays, or maybe you have some prying eyes. I know in my experience, I've got a 4-year-old that I think can spot a toy from a mile away. So things like these alternate delivery locations really provide an option for your receivers to maintain some confidentiality if they need to for shipments. And along with that, if they're a UPS My Choice member, they can log into their account anytime and redirect one or all of their packages to preferred UPS access point locations. Providing these options to your end customer gives them a great experience and can help you win more business by keeping a smile on their face. So that's a little bit about the folks receiving packages. This is also a great tool for you as a merchant, providing the network for you to drop off packages across the US. We actually have over 20,000 locations. And these are places like the UPS Store, CVS, Advance Auto Parts, Michaels, and other local neighborhood businesses. So you can see in the visual here, it gives you a step-by-step guide to how you would utilize the access point locations when you need to drop off packages. The best part about the access point network, in addition to the convenience, is the fact that over 99% of them are open on Saturdays and 85% past 6 o'clock. So that gives you a great way to get more out of your day, as well as the ability to drop off and let UPS take over at night and get those packages out maybe a day earlier as opposed to having them picked up. So this gives you an idea of some of the different services through UPS and ShipStation. Again, we're really excited about the partnership. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the reliability aspects in a couple minutes. But before we jump into that, Robert, do you want to talk a little bit about pricing and how merchants might think about pricing services to their end customer?
Yeah, no, sure thing, Bryce. Thanks. Yeah, pricing and how you price your shipping on your site, we hear this a lot as a stress point with merchants. And it doesn't have to be stressful. It is something that you have to think through, right? And there's different models or different methodologies for pricing shipping that we can all kind of share some of the best practices today. But your best option really comes down to a few economic pieces. What your business economics are, what type of margins are you trying to maintain, what are your customers expecting, maybe based on the type of products that you're selling and the service that you're offering. So there's some economics to obviously think through there. Really, one of the easiest pricing methodologies that we talk about is just offering flat rate shipping, right? You understand your business. You understand sort of maybe some price points around what your consumers are willing to pay for the shipping side of your services. And so, it's shoppers like this because it's easy to understand, and it's easy for you to make work. There's not a lot of interesting, complex math that you have to put into play. This works really well for merchants that have a great deal of their products that are the same size, same weight, and such. It's easier for them to calculate what they should be offering as far as their rate, and then deciding if they want to make this a potential small profit center or not. They can work through that as part of a flat rate shipping strategy. The next one that sort of builds on this is threshold shipping. And you guys have probably done this already, or you've seen it on other sites, but this is where you're offering free shipping, but there is a threshold in the in-cart value and the order value that needs to be there. I always use the example of $25 for free shipping. In my past retailer life, our non-promotional average order value was always hovering about $21, $22. So when we did run a free shipping promo, we would run it at $25 to try to pump up that average order value. We did it in a combination with a flat rate. So we had a charge or free. I believe the last time we ran it, it was $5 flat or 25 for free. And we saw success with that, pumping up our average order value, which obviously was a good tool for our marketing merchandising teams to use. My last piece of advice here around offering free shipping shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. We know that for so much of online shopping, free shipping is what's offered. It's got to be right for you, right? It's got to be right for the type of products that you sell, the competitive space that you're in. So, we believe that using tools like ShipStation and automation and other benefits of using such tools, along with having a strong carrier partner like UPS, can allow you to set up the right rules and the right flows that can allow you to offer free shipping. Again, it has to make sense to your economics. So we're definitely don't suggest doing it at all costs, but it is something that customers prefer. And our own research in the space also says that depending on the space that you're in and possible other like more expedited services that you might want to offer, that consumers are okay paying for shipping, right? They do want to feel that like they're getting something special when they do pay in for that, though. The next topic, I guess, I would like to just kind of go to after that piece is thinking about the packaging that you're using. Again, doesn't have to be a stressful thing in it. And there isn't, Bryce talks about there's not one size fit all for the type of services you might be using. There shouldn't be a one size fits all mentality around the type of packaging that's best for you to use. A couple of things to think about here are, if you think about the type of products that you're selling, what their their characteristics are they interesting as far as their shape, their size, their overall dimensions, their weight. You might look into custom packaging versus buying just off the rack, pre-sized, predetermined type of packaging. You might be better off creating and using customized packaging. That also might be in a situation where due to your brand and how you like to have your brand be part of the fulfillment process, your customized might also mean that it's a branded, the box is branded, inside of the box is branded, the wrapping is branded, the tape is even branded. Again, that might not be something for you to do based on the types of goods that you're selling or how you do your branding, but it's definitely something to think about. Obviously, another thing to think about these days is also about sustainability. And is there certain kind of packaging materials you might want to use, either because you believe in those types of efforts, or your consumers do, and that is part of your brand or your go-to-market. So it's definitely something to think about. Also, bring up packaging size and how that pertains to what's in the box has a great deal to do with how you're going to end up calculating your shipping costs. And so with that, I'll pass it back to Bryce to cover a little bit about how those things get calculated.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. And that's a real important point to think about is how is the packaging and the choices you're making about the boxes impacting your end customers and impacting the cost you pay. Now, I've spent quite a few years before my current role at UPS working in our revenue management group and looking at how the network works. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that are impacting that cost and try and provide from the carrier's point of view how things like weight or zone or distance impact that cost. So a couple of the easier aspects of packaging and implications on cost are weight and distance. From there, it does get more complex with things like dimensional weight, but they don't have to be confusing if you know a little bit about how carriers think. So the first one's weight. That's a big key factor in determining the price you're going to pay. Carriers use weight as an indicator of how much it will cost to potentially move the package in the network. It impacts things like capacity on airplanes, causes maybe potentially damages in a building if you've got something very heavy that's going down chutes or slides, as well as how much fuel a truck might burn. So weight is sort of the foundation of how much you will pay. From there, think about distance. If you're a merchant that's based in LA or New York, you may find a longer zone or distance, as we call it. As you ship across the US more, that might drive up an average cost. If you're a merchant that's more centrally located, maybe in Austin, Texas, like our friends at Octane, you may have a slightly shorter distance or average zone that then will drive down your cost. So although we can't always choose to be in a different place, it's important to know how that impacts your bottom line cost. So that's two sort of the starting points. The last piece to think about is dimensional weight, which for a lot of folks can be a pain point. One thing to keep in mind with this dimensional weight, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, is how it impacts carriers. So when you think about packages that are moving through our network, many times the assets, whether that's an airplane or a truck, they do what we call cube out, or that's an industry term to just say the space is full. I may not have reached the weight limit of an airplane. I may be able to put more on that truck, but I just don't have space for that. So to account for that, we use dimensional weight to equate a size back to a weight of a package and apply the appropriate rate. So, with those things in mind, one tip I like to tell people is to make sure you're putting in the correct dimensions up front. It may save you money as well as help avoid adjustments later, which is a big pain point. And both of those things are critical to ensure that you're covering and maintaining your bottom line in shipping. So if I had to kind of tie it all back together, take into account the packaging choices, as Robert talked about in terms of what might be best for your brand. Is there branded packaging? What types of products are you shipping? And balance that with the packing material. So at the end of the day, your package gets where it needs to be undamaged, but also minimizes your cost. So that's a lot about how we charge, hopefully provide some insight into how carriers think about it. And from there, we've talked about a range of different things from services to packaging. I'll turn it back over to Robert to talk a little bit about one of the most important aspects that's sometimes forgotten, which is what happens after the package arrives and we need to return it.
Thanks, Bryce. Yeah, again, shouldn't be a surprise. Returns are an important part of your overall, the service that you provide to your consumers. Our research shows that 50%, if not more, of consumers are looking for return policies and trying to understand what the merchant is offering as far as return options for them. And so we do believe that you still have time before busy season to think about your return policy. And there's reasons why, obviously, that you have to worry about the return policies. It is something, like I said, that the consumers are looking for. They're looking for it to be easy, to be simple to understand. And so, what I guess my advice here is that because your consumer is thinking about this as part of their want to convert, their want to check out on your site, it's something you do have to take into account. It can't be an afterthought anymore, and it can't be something that you don't think about. And so, it's still time to look at, do you need to create one from scratch, or do you have one already that you need to audit and sort of figure out if it's working? If you have one already, you probably already have some consumer feedback on what they liked and didn't like about it. So try to take that into account. Some things, other advice I can give is that, look out at the market. Do you have competition that your consumers are also shopping at? You might want to take a peek at what their return policies look like. Of course, we're all, there's also just sort of table stakes of what some of the big box retailers are doing. You can take a look at those to see what they are thinking about. One topic of returns that came up is that consumers are really interested in the time frame and the window of return that they're able to do. Really, no matter what you come up with for your return policy, making it super simple to understand, easy to find was also another complaint that our research shown that, yes, merchants have return policies, but as a consumer going through the shopping process, I couldn't actually find the policy in an easy way. Really, it's about making your customers feel confident, right? You spend a lot of time on your branding and your merchandising and marketing to get the customers to your site. You want to keep them feeling confident. And I would say that the other piece, it's not really initially the customer-facing piece, but it's what processes and tools do you have in place to handle returns and make it easy that that your customers are going to be able to get these returns. And with ShipStation, we have a branded tracking portal that is consumer facing as well, that gets to be, it's branded as your brand as a merchant. You get to use that as a starting point for your consumers to process returns. It's really painless for them. It's really, you want to make it painless for them, but you want to make it painless for you and your staff as well. And with the ShipStation tool, that's allowed to happen. And so, yeah, I guess just to end on the topic of returns, like there's still time to create or audit what you might already have in place. You really want to make sure you get this done before busy season. Don't have this be something that hurts your conversion on your website. And again, it has to be easy to understand, simple, a joke around, like if you could show it to your grandma and she can understand it, it's good to go. So that's our kind of advice on that. Yeah, and with that, I'd like to share a few sort of success stories of folks that have merchants that have worked very closely with UPS and ShipStation in combo to make changes in their business in the last year or so. And the first one I want to share is a company called Inker Supply, and they're an office supply company that, as you can imagine, supply chain issues became a big issue for them in 2020. They typically would try to launch new products every year, but as they started that process in 2020, they realized that factories that they were going to use and fulfillment supply chain links that they were going to use, if you will, were going to make it nearly impossible for them to get new product developed into their warehouses in time. So they did have to do a bit of shifting around, and they had to refocus. They had to refocus on product that they already had in their warehouse, as well as product that they could source locally and could warehouse locally and can turn quickly as far as getting it into their product mix. And so they really had to think about their expenses in a different way and had to optimize a lot of their operations and their fulfillment operations in order to I guess traditionally they would have had new product launches that were part of their driver, and they weren't going to have that this year. And so by using ShipStation and UPS in tandem, we were able to cut their shipping costs by over 36%. So that's a fairly healthy number for them. A big part of why they picked the ShipStation UPS combo is that through the rates they were able to get and the partnership they were able to get through ShipStation to UPS, they didn't have to think about shipment minimums and shipment volume minimums, that they were going to be forced to withhold or hold up to, and they didn't have to think about long-term commitments across the board of the tools they were using. And so that was very comforting for them. And all their annual savings during that year was over $45,000. So really great that they were able to use ShipStation, get the discounted rates through UPS, and realize that saving and all the optimizations that came along with, like I said, them having to sort of shift gears during that period of time. So yeah, one other one I want to share is a really cool father-son company called Core 360, and they face a different problem. What they experienced during sort of the ramp into COVID and COVID times was obviously a lot more people working from home. They're a manufacturer of really cool ergonomic desk chairs. And of course, with more folks working at home and companies having budget for folks to set up work from home, offices, they saw their business accelerate, and they realized pretty quickly that the way they were doing it was not going to scale. That was not going to grow. They were, and we've had many discussions with these folks on how they went from what they were doing to today. They were literally hand packing, hand picking, using sort of label maker to make labels for all their boxes, and then they would split up boxes into different employees' cars and drive them down to their carrier choice at the time. And it was obviously something that they weren't. As they started scaling, that wasn't going to work for them. So they worked with ShipStation. They picked a combination of ShipStation and UPS to handle this new volume. And it allowed them to start providing a quality and level of service that they weren't going to be able to do otherwise. And they feel like they're able to do things in a manner that's much more beyond their maturity and their size. The dad of the partnership there, it's funny. One of the times we talked to him, he talked about he feels like a big dog now, and they get to run with the big dogs, even though they're really not that big in their mind. they also were able to not only continue to use their own fulfillment warehouse, they were able to partner with a third-party fulfiller who's also partnered with ShipStation and UPS, and they were able to use that combination. And Bryce mentioned earlier about the international capabilities of UPS. They're able to use that all these partnerships in tandem to, I believe they're shipping now over 20 different countries. And the son in the partnership there, I remember he was quoted saying, such a beautiful thing is the way he talked about it, from what they were doing and not being international to being able to scale the way they have and now be international was, was something that he thought was really a beautiful thing. And he's so happy now that they're not worried about scale anymore. They're not worried about their continued growth like they were at one point in their history. So, Bryce, some questions we get a lot, I don't know if the questions are coming through, but are around just performance of UPS as a carrier. So I'll let you take it from here. I know you have some data to share with us.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. And look, we know when it comes to getting ship done, that we recognize you got to partner with a company that's going to deliver an awesome customer experience. And a big part of that's delivering on time. So UPS, we know how critical that is to hold up our end of the deal. And we've built a network that's highly reliable. It's integrated for ground, air, international services. And our priority really is to deliver on the promise we make to you and the promise you make to your end customer. So, we think about peak season, which for many of you is a big time of year. Our reliability speaks for itself. And we look at ShipMatrix, who's a third-party logistics consultant. In 2021, from November 28th through Christmas, UPS had the best on-time rate in the industry, and that was at 96.9%. In fact, the last 3 years, you can see we've consistently provided that service. And that's been throughout what many consider to be, one of the most unpredictable business environments in recent history. Supply chain constraints, you've got volume spikes and declines as different markets have opened and closed. And because of our dynamic network and that integrated network, we've really been able to deliver not only during peak, but throughout the year. And all of that translates to a net promoter score. And the net promoter scores you see here for the carriers, and that's really all about likelihood to recommend. But what that entails for us and for you is, how do we reflect on your business when you're choosing a carrier? So when you think about the carriers you're choosing, just keep in mind that even a slight dip in performance can really cost you loyal customers, future orders, and drive down the happiness and the experience your customers have. So we'll update these figures as we continue to go forward. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Robert, to talk a little bit about how you kind of pull all this together and some of the things we've covered today, how those impact merchants.
Yeah, thanks, Bryce. Yeah, as the slide on your screen says, repeat customers can't be bought; they need to be earned. And obviously, being in the logistics and the fulfillment side of your processes and of your go to market, we do think about it, and would ask you to think about it as what happens after your consumer checks out is really their last experience with you. And you've heard heard a quote around the last best experience that they have, but that's really what their expectations are set at the moment they checked out. You've hopefully promised them, you promised them the product that they're purchasing. You may have told them a little bit about what the timeline for delivery is going to be, and now they're waiting, right? You've converted them already, they've checked out, and that's great. But it's the rest of the experience at this point that that's really important. And so we believe, and we know through our research and our own personal experience, that providing that great experience from that point of checkout and beyond is a huge signaler for these folks coming back to you, right? And talking about getting it there on time and thinking about returns, all of the pieces that we talked about today. But we do believe that getting their loyalty is not just at the point of checkout; it is the rest of that experience that they have. So we ask you to think about that process, and you're offering them really strong tracking and acknowledging what's going on with their order is going to make a huge difference, and it will give them a reason. You'll give them a reason to come back and shop more with you, over time. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Robert and Bryce, for this amazing information, for all those SMB e-commerce merchants out there. I want to highlight for all the attendees today where you can get resources. You can, of course, visit ShipStation at ShipStation.com. And also the content today is referencing our ebook that we created with UPS. You can download that ebook at ShipStation.com/SMB-shippers-guide. And now, last but not least, we're going to move on to our favorite part of the day, and that's answering your questions. So, Robert, we'll get started with you. Here's a question for you. Has any of your research confirmed whether or not customers prefer flat rate shipping over threshold shipping, and which one impacts cart conversions the most?
Yeah, I would say, unfortunately, the biggest signal and our most recent research was pointed at, it was low 50 percentile was pointing at free shipping. And so, I would say beyond having research on the rest of those options, experiment if you can. So if free shipping just doesn't work for you, I mean, we all do a lot of online shopping, and we've from time to time, it's not uncommon to have to pay for shipping. I mean, the last thing I ordered that was not from a big box, it was from I would say a mid-size ShipStation merchant. They were charging shipping, and I didn't have any issue being paid for. In this case, it was because it was sort of a handmade thing that I really couldn't get anywhere else. So if you have the means to experiment with your shipping, I would suggest trying. I would say my putting on my old retailer hat, I would try free shipping against a threshold with a flat combo and see if it changes in your trajectory on your sales.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. All right, Bryce, we got a question for you. Do the domestic services include Saturday delivery when the delivery date falls on that day?
Yeah, so in most geographies across the US, UPS does deliver on Saturday. You can check ups.com if there's certain areas you need to look into, but generally a UPS ground will deliver on Saturday if that's the service you select and that's an available area.
Great, thank you. All righty, Robert, another question for you. Is there any industry standard for a time period to allow returns?
Yeah, that's another great question, and I haven't asked that as part of our research when we're talking to our merchants. So historically, thinking about things like, I'll say this, for the last retailer I was at, we usually tied that back to what season we were in. So if it was holidays, we'd open the window up a little bit longer because we understood that our consumers were buying a great deal of gifts, and we knew that needed to give an extra time. So last recall, let's say our normal off-season return window, I believe, was 2 weeks, 10 business days typically, and we would extend that out. And we'd experiment with this as well, but we would double that, or sometimes even a little bit further, would extend that out. And we would use that though as a trust mark in our merchandising. So we would say, we were very adamant about our return policy, and we would say, take up to 30 days to return. And we would use that as part of the merch, if you will. So yeah, I don't know offhand what standard is, but I would say think about your own sort of sales mix and seasonality potentially to set those dates.
Yeah, that's great input about, I love that where you're telling everyone is you really need to test, see what works. And I think I'm taking into the account the seasonality, that's really important too. So thank you. All righty, Bryce, we have another question for you. Can we get better rates if we're so new that we aren't moving any shipments yet, and it could be an extended period before any online purchases, instead of having a discount contract that expires before you even get to use it?
Yes, it's a great question, and the answer is yes. And that's one of the great things about the partnership with ShipStation is we've simplified getting access to great rates. We offer competitive rates day one. There's no volume commitment. You don't have to deal with some of the contract constraints that maybe you've experienced in the past. So if the fit with ShipStation works for your business and UPS has a service that meets your needs, you will get the best price day one. And in many cases, those some of the surcharges that folks are used to are incorporated into that rate. So things like residential surcharge or fuel surcharge are already included in the rate. So the rate you see in the system when you print the label is the rate you'll pay. And that doesn't matter whether it's day one of your business or you've been in business for a couple of years. The rates are very competitive. We're really proud of that partnership and what we're able to offer for SMBs that generally wouldn't have access to something like this program.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, Bryce, we have another question for you. How do we ship from the US to Canada and ensure that UPS does not clear customs? We want to ensure that an outside customs broker clears customs.
Another good one. So if you're shipping up to Canada, if you select standard ground service, what we call UPS standard, which is a ground movement, you can select the broker as part of that shipment, and that broker will clear it and UPS will not. So again, the UPS standard to Canada service is the best bet there to achieve what you're trying to get to.
Thank you for that. Okay, Robert, we got another question for you. What type of printers does ShipStation support? There's a lot of S's in that one.
Yeah, so yeah, a variety of thermal printer brands. So Dymo is one, Zebra. The thermal, we're sort of partial to thermal printers because of how they function and how quickly they can print, and just the mechanisms behind thermal printers, how they work. They're a little bit more economical in the long run, and the speed is something. But if you go to ShipStation.com, and we have some articles written about printing and how to set them up. And we can maybe that could be a topic if we're going to message out to folks that attended the webinar or signed up for the webinar. Maybe we could share a link to some of the info around. We've obviously written some articles through the years on how to pick printers and how to best work with ShipStation with the various printers, so we can get that sent out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Bryce, another question for you. Let's say I am at work and I have an order I want to ship on my lunch break. If I have the package on me, can I use a UPS access point location to drop it off and ship?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the great thing about the access point locations. I mean, they're designed for convenience. So, whether you're out on your lunch break or stopping by after work, you can drop those packages. To drop off as a merchant, to drop off packages, whether you've got one or a handful, there's no fee associated with it. So for a lot of folks, they find that to be more convenient than waiting or having a scheduled delivery. I know a lot of SMBs are, maybe you're running two businesses or this is your side hustle. So the access points provide a good outlet or injection point into the network, get things moving.
Awesome. Thank you. All righty, Robert, what is the #1 problem you see your merchants reaching out to you for help with?
Oh boy, I wish it was one. Like Bryce, we mentioned earlier, it's not one size fits all, and that's same with problems. So if I can, I'll answer the question by throwing out a few of the top ones. A big one is around the rates they're getting from their carriers. Are they getting the best deals? Are they using the right carriers for what they're up to? That's a big one that they come to us and they want advice on, and they want the system behind making the right choices and automating those choices after they've made them. I guess the other one, it's tied for top. The other one is just they start to grow, but they're not sure that they're doing things right, if you will. Like no one launches a business online or even brick and mortar to be really great at shipping and to be an expert at shipping. It's kind of down the chain of what they're worrying about. But we know, and they know, that if they don't figure it out and they don't do the best that they can, and that it becomes this cost center that can be troublesome for their business. So they come to us asking for how to do things better and how to scale up in ways that can help them be better at it. So it's a huge piece of it.
Okay, Bryce, how many packages will an access point like CVS accept?
Yeah, it's a great question. It honestly depends. Kind of like Robert's last answer, but generally, if the packages will fit, in the trunk of your car, in the back seat, and you can get them there, they'll be able to accept those packages. So there's not one set answer, but generally, you'll be able to get the packages into the network on time and out the door.
Okay, awesome. All righty. Well, guys, that's all the questions that we've had come in that we have time to answer today. Thank you so much, Bryce and Robert, for leading this webinar today. You guys did a great job. I feel like I learned a lot today too. And thank you to everyone who joined us today, to all of our attendees. I really appreciate your time. We know you're all very busy getting ready for peak season, and we really appreciate your time and value your time. And the full recording of this webinar will be posted on the ShipStation YouTube channel shortly. So if there's any part of it that you want to go back and revisit, please feel free to do so. And again, you can reach out to us at any time. You can reach out to ShipStation, just go to our website, shipstation.com. And with that, I hope you all have an amazing peak season and hope you all have a fantastic day. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.